Hi there, my name is James Orvis, and in today's video we are going to be covering a bass sound in Anne-Me's Garden. It's a really cool bass sound, really unique sounding, but also I found it's really simple as well to make. So I was quite surprised. It's got a really distinct character to it. But yeah, as you'll see when we go through this, it is actually quite easy to make. So let's have a quick listen, and I'll show you the original one. Can't play too much because we get flagged by YouTube, but here we go. Just a really nice kind of elasticy sounding bass, and the big reason why you get that sound is because of the higher notes. So this is the main bass riff, and then you've got these higher octave notes that pop through. So we'll go through this. I'll quickly show you my version of it. I think it's pretty close. It's close enough. So there's the MIDI notes if you want to copy those down. Really cool little bass riff, I think. And then what I'm going to do is just take off the plugins so we can kind of start from scratch in a way. Let me just take off the effects as well. And I'm also going to turn off the filter. And let's turn off engine 1 and just start with this first oscillator. So I know it's a bit backwards going from engine 2 then engine 1, but it's just the way that I made the patch, so I started with this one first. Now, I knew it was kind of like a square waveform, but I found that when I used the square waveform, it didn't sound right. It didn't have the character that I wanted, and I did the usual thing where I messed around with all of these kind of wavetable waveforms, still couldn't find the right tone I was looking for. Then I realised it was just the case of messing around with this section, so I just used wave folding. And what I did was I set it up so it was on the fed fold shape and also on the modulator wave sawtooth, so it took a little bit of playing around to get there, but I got it in the end. And it's a cool little trick that I'll probably use when creating sounds now as well. These are good settings for this. So if I bring this all the way down and then I sweep through the wave folder, you'll hear what it does to it. So it's a really quick, easy way to just kind of like change the character of the oscillator. And then another thing that I did was to double the voices up on the unison in classic mode and then detune them and also open them up in the stereo field as well. Not too much because you don't want to like mess up the mono compatibility of the sound, so I always kind of dial it back a little bit. That's pretty much it for the first oscillator. Now, I'm sure you can do this next thing, I'm sure you can do it just by putting this to 3 and it'll stick one of them down the center as well, but I wanted a little bit more control over the volume. So I've got engine 1 and I've set this to square wave as well, and exactly the same kind of settings, apart from I noticed when looking back at the preset, I didn't set this to number 3, but I'm going to leave it because it sounds good. And this one's got no unison on, so it's just straight down the middle to kind of maintain that solid bass in the middle of the stereo field. So let's just switch it off and then back on again. So it just really thickens up the sound and kind of adds a bit more fuzziness to it as well, I think. That could just be the jump in volume that makes it sound better, but it definitely does kind of maintain the mono compatibility of the sound. Like I said, with it being bass, you kind of need that. And I did some other processing it later on as well in the chain to kind of make sure we maintain it. Next, we've got filter 1, and I've set this to multi-mode, and we've got the keyboard. I dialed this in quite high. So that basically means as you go up the scale on the keyboard, it opens the filter a little bit more, so those top notes really pop through. Now, if I bring this all the way down and press play, and now with it on, So you can hear the difference there, that like when we've got the keyboard up, it actually maintains like a damp bass sound, but then allows those top notes to pop through. It's really, really useful little trick. And then just set this to 24 dB slope. We've got the resonance up a fair bit, and cutoff's around 155 hertz. Now, most of the movement from the filter comes from, I mean, this is like a classic synth trick that everyone should know by now. With the envelope, just send an envelope to a cutoff and you get that nice kind of punchy bass sound. So this is the envelope that I'm using. The actual Amplitude envelope is just really simple. I've just put sustain all the way up. I could probably shape it a little bit more, but I'm kind of happy with it there. So yeah, most of the shape comes from the filter. So we've got the decay set to 375. We're sending a fair bit of it to the filter 1 cutoff, and then also the sustain as well. Felt like it was too stabby when it was all the way down, and I didn't want to just control that just using the decay. So basically the sustain allows, let me just put that back. By the way, I only just found out about this button in Arturia. I don't know how I've like missed it, but it's been an absolute godsend when creating patches and stuff. So if you mess up, you just press the undo button. I mean, it's simple stuff. You get it in like Ableton and everything, but I just don't know why I've never kind of seen that arrow and thought, oh, there's an undo button. I've always like tweaked stuff and then tried to put it back to where it was. So yeah, anyway, the sustain means that when the filter drops back down, it doesn't go all the way back down. It kind of stays open a little bit, so it just kind of opens the sound a little bit more. Just works a little bit better. I think that's it for this front section, and then let's move on to the effects. So these are just to sweeten it up a little bit. I'm going to turn that off, and first one's Wave Folder. See what I mean with the undo button? I can like undo it and go straight back to the original settings. It's great. But yeah, the drive, that's just to add some more kind of like harmonics to the sound. Really subtle, but it goes a long way. And then delay. So this is quite a subtle element of the sound as well. If I turn it up, you can hear the settings. So we just want that quite subtle, but we've got it set to dots, 1/8 dots, and then a bit of feedback. Brought the stereo width down a little bit to maintain it. And then a bit of high pass and a bit of dampening on the top end as well. I've noticed on the original, so when I first made this patch, I had the wet set up a lot higher, but if you listen to it, most of the phrase it's set quite low, but then it seems that the beginning of the phrase, it kind of jumps out more. Let's have a listen to the original, you see what I mean? It's like the bit at the end of the phrase goes dun 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 and then starts again. You've got this kind of like delay tail that comes in a little bit more. So if you wanted to do that, a way to do that is to just automate it or record it in. So it goes like this. A bit sloppy, but you get what I mean. It's kind of like, so let's say that's the phrase and that's the next part of the phrase. It's like these points, so it's like the beginning point, and that point it delays this section onto the beginning. You get that kind of really nice little fill. So yeah, there's the delay, and then there's a bit of reverb as well. There is a chorus on that, but I didn't use it in the end. I used the TAL one, which I'll show you in a second. So the reverb, really kind of short reverb. Let me just switch this on. Really subtle, so I've just brought down the decay all the way down, size down quite considerably, dampening up quite a bit, and then EQ'd it with these as well. And then again with the stereo width, just pulling it back a little bit just to kind of maintain it so you don't lose it if you collapse to mono. So yeah, there's the effects. There is one on there, but I didn't use that. And then we've got the chorus. So tell chorus, you've probably seen me do this in other tutorials. I just split the signal, so I've got a dry signal and a wet signal, full 100% wet chorus. And then I'll just add an EQ to basically cut off those bass and sub frequencies, so we're not spreading that across the stereo. Again, just another subtle touch there. And then again, just to make sure we're completely controlling that bottom end, I've got this mono maker set to 249 Hz. You could use Ableton's utility plugin, and I keep saying I'm going to start using it because it's just probably less taxing on CPU. And they obviously added it with the new Ableton, but it's just force of habit. I just keep using the Brainworks one, but I don't need to anymore. It is a useful plugin. You've got that stereo width bit there as well, and some other like stuff that I don't ever use. It's always these two. But yeah, that's really useful to just kind of tighten up that bottom end to make sure it's not spilling out into the stereo. Especially when we've got like unison on as well on the oscillators. And this final one, if I was using this sound in my own tracks, I'd probably take that off and sidechain the bottom end. But I've noticed in the And Me track, the bass is kind of high past. It's not a sub heavy, so I've just basically added this to kind of match up to the original track. And then also there's a bit of a dip at 400 Hz to just kind of like take out some of that muddiness. And that's pretty much it for this sound. Hope you've enjoyed that and you found it useful. Maybe you've learned a couple of little tiny tricks along the way, or maybe this is a sound that you've been trying to put into your toolkit for a while. So you can go ahead and copy those, what I've done there. Like I say, with any of these tutorials, recreate it, save it, and then put it into a track and mess around with it and try and come up with a slight variation on it. That's what I tend to do myself. And with Ableton, if you've added like third-party plugins, you will all know this, but you can just basically call that and not that one, and me garden bass, and then I can save the whole rack then. So I'll put it in here, and then you could code it. I mean, not code it, sorry, group it. So I could put it in like favorite chains, and then if I go to the top, I've got it in there. I need to go through and do my other ones, but yeah, you can see there like Ramper Tell Me when we did that one, that's in there now. And then you can call upon them later on and tweak them, come up with different variations of them. If there's any questions or anything like that, please let us know in the comments below. If there's any tutorials you'd like us to cover in future, let us know that as well. And if there's any sounds that you're wanting us to recreate, just go ahead, let us know, and we'll try and fit into our schedule. Thank you so much for watching. My name is James Orvis, and I will catch you next time.